Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. I am your host, Chat Daddy. So glad to be here with you guys on a beautiful Tuesday. No matter where you are in the country, I think right now we're experiencing the best of summer weather. Here in Chicago, we are in the high 90s. I think this is the second time in history that we've had a 90-degree or a day this hot on this day in July. So I'm glad to be here with you guys. I have another great show planned for your viewing and listening pleasure this evening. As you guys all know, I've started my Hotter Than July series each and every night during the month of July. I plan on bringing you some of the best conversations ever to help you, your family, your community, your city, and the world as a whole. That's what this show is all about. Tonight, we have a really wonderful special guest co-host who's going to hang out with us tonight. And then later on in the show, we're going to have a really interesting conversation. A couple of weeks ago, I posted on Facebook, another 3-year-old has been shot in Chicago. Why are we not looting and protesting all of these babies getting shot? This is unacceptable, Chicago. And usually when I go on social media and make my statements, I just kind of put them out there. I leave them alone. I come back and I see what kind of damage the statements have caused. Well, quite a few people chimed in on it. Some people were like, yes, Art, I feel you. I understand. Where other people was like, how dare you make a statement like that? You know, you're polarizing people, which I didn't say any particular color. I didn't say any particular community. Well, long story short, this is the crux of our conversation that we're going to have this evening. We'll tell you all about it. I want to bring in our very special guest co-host. He is Bishop Damone Seraphin. He is also the founding artistic director of the New America Theater Company located in New York. He's an award-winning actor, director, artistic director. And from what I am told, the man can preach as well, too. I don't know. I mean, I thought maybe Bishop was just an added title. When I met this man, you guys, he was none of this. And here's the beautiful part. He has become all of these amazing things, and I am super proud of him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our friend. Hello, Bishop. How are you? See, I'm going to be calling you Bishop all night.
What's up, Chat Daddy?
How you doing?
Whatever. I'm not special.
I know. I just love you. I do. I absolutely. This is such an honor and a pleasure to have you here with me this evening. My introduction of you was minor, so give these people a little taste of who you are and your background, because you're originally from the west side of Chicago.
Listen, West Side. Yeah, man, I'm from the west side of Chicago. Have lived here in New York for a number of years, but grew up on the west side and kind of stumbled into my career. I was 9 years old. When I stumbled into the Lamont Zeno Theater of the Better Boys Foundation on the west side of Chicago and found this wonderful craft of acting. As a kid, there were people in the theater just running around acting crazy and not getting in trouble for it. You know, 9 years old, I was always getting in trouble. But I saw these people running around, putting on costumes and not getting in trouble. And then later finding that they were being paid to do it. And I thought, this is home for me. And so that's when my love for the theater was born. I often tell people I not only got a career out of the deal, but I got a dad out of the deal. My father died after I was born. And so the man that I know as my father was my first acting teacher. His name is Little Tom Jackson. He's my daddy to this day. Hey, Tammy. And so it's been a whirlwind life from 9 years old to now. I've traveled the world as a performer, performed on Broadway, performed in TV. I grew up in a family of preachers and was mentored by the likes of the Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright Jr., Reverend Dr. Ray Allen Berryhill is my father in ministry. And so my call to ministry at 16 was really quite profound. My love for theology, my love for the African presence in theology under Dr. Jeremiah Wright just kind of bourgeoned. And so I matriculated through school to learn the truth about our tradition as Christians, and particularly Black Christians, Christians of the African culture, African American culture, learn the truth of who we are under Dr. Jeremiah Wright. And my life on both parts, ministry and performing, has been amazing.
Well, I love it. Your journey has been really an epic journey. You and I have kept in touch over the years.
Yes.
We've never lost touch.
No.
I think we need to let people know how we actually met.
You better tell them, honey.
Right. When I was a flight attendant, this young man was actually a passenger on my flight.
Yes.
We were flying from, was it New York to LA, or
I think so.
was it Chicago, LA?
Chicago, LA.
Yeah. And I met him when I was a flight attendant, and we became good buddies and have kept in touch over the years.
Yes.
He's watched the rise and fall of my career, the rise and fall again. And I've watched him do what he needs to do. And the funniest thing is that fate has had it where we would do this in the past, but it never worked out.
Yep.
And so tonight I'm just honored to have you here with me and doing this show.
I'm glad to be here. I remember just going, wait a minute. I know that's art. I look at art. Art's a star. Look at Art is a star. He's a star. He was my flight attendant.
I was right.
You looked out for me all the time, making sure this young actor needed to be where he got to be, and but then you left flying and then took to the stars.
Yes.
So I've always celebrated. Anytime I saw you on, anybody who I knew who was around me, I would see something. I'm like, I know that brother right there. Look at him, Oprah and everybody. I said, look at him hobnobbing.
Well, I do. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. It's just so incredible. So I want to start off with some of the top news stories of the day. As you guys all know, we are in the midst of coronavirus. I call it season, but it is a pandemic, a global pandemic. The United States has had a hard impact. You are living in New York, which at one point was the epicenter of coronavirus being at its highest. We just found out today that the president of Brazil has tested positive for corona. Yesterday, we found out that Keisha Lance Bottom, the wonderful mayor of Atlanta, she has tested positive. And so, brother, you know, you and I were talking on the phone last week about, we just thank God that we are safe and have, you know, scathed this unfortunate situation that has taken the lives of so many people. How has this been for you dealing with corona, you and your family?
It's been really interesting. I was just telling someone earlier today, you kind of get a little numb after a while with all of the losses. We know so many people, certainly in my industry, who have been affected. It started kind of in a distant way. I was friends with the prolific playwright, Terrence McNally, who wrote shows like Ragtime that I had the fortune of being able to do. Terrence was the first loss that I experienced. And then we had family members who passed away. We had an aunt who passed away, had two cousins who passed away. Healthy people. Terrence was sick, but he wasn't at death's door like that. But he got it and died immediately. We had a cousin who got it. He was 37. He got it and was gone within a month. And then quite recently on Sunday, we lost a good friend, Nick Cordero, that Broadway performer. Nick passed away after struggling for 3 months in the hospital and during amputations, waiting for a double lung transplant. I mean, COVID hit him hard, but we had great hope that he was going to make it, and then he didn't.
Well, you know, as much as you love the theater world, and this has been your calling and really how you've made your bread and butter for your family, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I saw it on a news program. Once, Broadway is back open and a lot of the off-Broadway theaters, even movie production, TV shows, will we ever see kissing and intimacy again? Will we see that? Because most plays, Color Purple, any play, the characters usually kiss. Aladdin, any of the Disneys with the genies and the princesses and all that. So will we ever see romance being brought back to the stage, as well as social distancing?
Well, so let me address the first thing. Broadway, the community art, we've been shut down until at least January 2021.
Wow.
And that's just that we would go back into rehearsals in January, which means shows probably won't really open until March. That's a tentative timeline. In terms of how we interact with each other and how we engage the audience, it's tricky. I was in a conversation with a producer today, who's trying to figure out how to bring some form of the theater back. And we're talking about staging shows where we're maintaining 6 feet. How do you stage musicals where people are supposed to be intimately connected, but we have to maintain 6 feet? So we're trying to figure out how to stage shows and choreograph shows with that kind of distance in mind. Whereas we would have those passionate kisses, now they're blown kisses because we're not trying to mess around with it. We just learned today, got some kind of solid answer where we weren't sure if this thing was what's the word I'm looking for? We weren't sure if this was an airborne virus. We just know that it is very much an airborne virus. And so you've got theaters trying to hang dividers between the audience and the artist. They're redoing the ventilation systems to try to keep the air purified. We have theaters, Barrington Stage in the Berkshires has taken out a great number of their seats. They had a capacity of like 600, and now they're down to 100 and something seats so that they can kind of distance people. So the shorter answer to your question is we will not be coming back the way we left.
And that's what I thought to begin with, because, I was telling you earlier that, oftentimes when I'm invited to productions, I'm always usually given front row seats, second row seats. I'm never any further than 10 rows back because the PR people and the theater companies want me to review. Yeah. And I watch the amount of spit that comes out of you guys' mouth. I mean, I know just doing radio, TV, spit happens. Look, spit happens.
It happens before.
But I can only imagine you're standing there singing and performing with somebody, and this spit coming out is natural. You would have to be paranoid at this point.
Let me tell you something. As a preacher and as a performer, I have seen some things that have horrified me in this pandemic. And I love the Lord. I trust the Lord. But even in the Old Testament, they had to put the blood on the door and stay in their house so as not to be caught up. That's why we got Passover. You put the blood on the door and the death angel would pass over you. Well, listen, that's what this covering is. It's like the Passover. But those of us who are not protecting ourselves in such a way, I've seen funerals in Houston. At the heart of this pandemic, people passing mics without any cover, not sanitizing the mics. I saw a preacher cough in the mic. I said, these people are crazy. What the hell is going on here? That's what the bishop said. What the hell is going on here?
Yes.
That people would play with this thing like that. The theater is not, our union won't let us do it.
Yes.
Our union will not let us perform. But I'm horrified by what I'm seeing in some of these churches who are so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good.
You know what? I've got to agree with you on that 100%. I think you and I were watching the same funeral on television, and I said the same thing too. I said, I mean, ain't nobody took not one sanitized wipe. Ain't nobody took a, and look, even when I was in radio, I was so paranoid the 5 years that I was on the air. Because again, that microphone is used by people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I would go in sanitizing, wiping, buying covers. I don't know where your mouth been. I know where my mouth has been. I know, you know what I'm saying? But what you putting into this microphone, you can't gauge it. But I thought the same thing too. Same way with a lot of press conferences we see with our political people, mayors and governor. Ain't nobody just taking a little alcohol wipe and kind of rubbing it down.
No. It is what I do especially when I'm preaching around. I keep an antibacterial wipe in my hand, in my pocket, or in my briefcase, and I take it and I wipe the mic down. There you go. I wipe it down, and people laugh at me, but I'm like, and this was even before pandemic. I just think germs are so you can't be too careful. In the theater, all of that's taken care of for us.
Right.
All of that.
Yeah.
Like, you actually get your own mic. You know, when they mic, you have the same mic. But even in that, they take care of those instruments for us so that we're not, building on bacteria.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you so very much. I want to do the latest Illinois COVID update numbers. As of release today, the state of Illinois has 37 new additional deaths from COVID-19, more than the daily totals from over the long holiday weekend, but we are still well below the numbers of daily deaths during May and June. The state has also announced 587 new confirmed cases of coronavirus, with the result now being 26,944 people who have been tested. So at least our numbers are dropping. That death number is up a little bit more, but I guess it's expected. We've had rallies, parties, picnics, people that have been out doing a lot of different things. And so how are the numbers over there in New York? Have they increased? What's the latest? Oh boy, I can tell by your eyebrows. It must be a hot mess. What are the numbers there?
It's really sad. I was looking at the total numbers, right? And so the total number of deaths to date in the state number at 32,219 deaths in the state. That's the total
state of New York.
In the state of New York.
32,000.
Yes. The total number of deaths in the city of New York number at 18,508. The number of confirmed cases, the total number of confirmed cases, 402,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus. Out of that number, the number of people to recover, 71,000.
Okay. All right. But yeah.
Here's what we need to know. The greatest number of people affected in the state or in the city, really, that age bracket between 65 and 75.
Yes.
The greatest number affected. Queens, which is where I'm at, has highest concentration of cases of the infection.
Really?
Yes. Ages 18 through 44, the number is just under 3,000. Yep. 45 through 64, the number is just at 4,000. This is in Queens. Between 65 and 74, the number is just under 4,000 people. 75 plus, 75 and older is over 4,000 infections.
Wow.
The numbers on Staten Island are very similar, but the numbers that are mostly being affected on Staten Island are the age group between 45 and 64.
People that's still out there, the working crowd,
people who are tripping the light fantastic, like nothing's wrong, not wearing a mask, hanging out in bars. Yeah, we can't play with this thing.
Wow. My girl Pam in New Jersey. Hey, Pam, thanks for joining us. She said they are right behind with 15,281 deaths and
Wow.
over 175,000 cases statewide. So you
Yeah.
guys, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. When did you know this was serious? Other than the family members, when did you say, "Wait a minute, I'm gonna lock it down"? Because you've even been trying to travel to preach,
Yeah.
and your beautiful wife is like, "Hell to the no!" Right?
Hey, no, to the no, no,
To the
no.
no, oh no, right?
Let me tell you, the moment they told us we couldn't come back to the theater, I said, this is serious. When you shut down the major source of revenue in New York City via tourism, when you say that's shut down, don't nobody come up in here, I thought this is serious. They're not playing.
Right.
This is not
Right.
to be played with. This is
Right.
not to be played with. Because,
That's right.
listen, the show must go on.
Mm-hmm.
But they said the show will not go on.
And
And I
here's
said,
the crazy
cancel
piece.
shows.
Do you know how much money these cities are losing? The
Yeah.
average hotel room in New York on the low end is $250, $300 a night.
Yes.
On the high end, you can spend $1,000 a night for a hotel room.
Yes.
Look at the fact that people use transportation, livery services, the number of high-end restaurants that are in New York, much like Chicago. You know, they're saying that in Chicago right now, there are 1,500 restaurants that will not come back as a result of this in the Chicagoland area.
Absolutely.
And I know in the neighborhood I'm in, 6 of them, there's no trace of them right now. So I can only imagine, as you said, Broadway, the show must go on no matter what.
And they said, no, we are shut down. So that means hotels have been affected, restaurants have been affected, museums are being affected. There's so many restaurants, so many, so we're talking about Broadway, but New York obviously doesn't just exist solely on Broadway.
Right.
Our theater doesn't exist solely on Broadway. And there are so many companies that are being shut down, that are shuttering, not to return. The same in Chicago. You guys have lost some major theater companies in Chicago because they cannot bounce back as a result of the effect of this pandemic. And so it's really not to be trifled with.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not to, it's businesses are affected, but lives are affected. The number of children, I couldn't even stomach the number of children that have been affected by this virus.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't play with it. We can't play with it. And so when they say stay at home, stay at home.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
It's not even about you. I just want to make this real clear. It's about the person sitting next to you. So even if you have no care for yourself, we as a people have to care about the people who are next to us. You're wearing that mask, not so much for your comfort, but for the comfort of the people you'll come in contact with, since you refuse to stay at home. And get me, I'm one of the people. I'm out every day. But let me tell you what my routine is. I have an antibacterial wipe that I wipe down everything with. I've got a mask that I wear. Nobody's hugging me. I'm not even fist bumping or elbow bumping people. If you look like you coming my way, I'm mean mugging you.
Mm-hmm. Aria Craig says, and Trump wants to put pressure on governors to reopen schools. Who in the hell in their right mind? You know?
Want to put the kids at risk. So now what we're saying is dollars are more important than lives. Did you get that?
I got it.
Are more important than lives.
Mm-hmm. You are absolutely right. You know, it's sad in many different ways. Our friend Tony Bond, who was a co-host on the show. Hey, Tony. She's out in sunny Las Vegas, and she was a co-host here on the show right before they were getting ready to open Vegas back up, because that was a part of her co-hosting, was to talk about Vegas opening back up, all of that. She's reporting that 23,709 cases now, with 548 deaths, and those numbers are growing exponentially each day. And remember, we were all looking at Vegas weird, like, wait a minute, y'all finna open back up. And I've seen so many people on airplanes on their way to Vegas. People have been vacationing, and all I can say is that if nothing happened but God, because otherwise I was gonna try to go somewhere for a few days, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna stay put.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I was invited to preach for my presiding bishop on this coming Sunday. And since Nick passed away, I had to call him up and say, I'm not coming. I can't get on a plane with the numbers spiking as they are. I just can't put myself at risk.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it.
No, I don't blame
I don't want to put you at risk.
Right.
I don't put you at risk. I'm coming to preach in your church. Who knows what's going to happen between me leaving my door, getting into the airport, getting onto the plane, getting off the plane, this thing is it is airborne.
It is. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Okay, very good. With that being said, for those of you all that are just joining us, welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. I am your host, Chat Daddy. Glad to be here with you guys on another beautiful Tuesday evening. It actually is a hotter than July evening. That's my series, the entire month of July. And we have Bishop Damone Seraphin as our guest co-host tonight. I know, I got to practice that. It's a wonderful name. It is. And so, Bishop, in just a little bit, we're going to start our roundtable discussion this evening. Yes. And you are actually our moderator, our person that's helping me to discuss and make all of this come about. And so, Bishop, what is our topic that we're going to be talking about this evening?
Exposing the monster. What does that mean? If I can just give us some numbers that'll help kind of put this conversation in perspective. It's very interesting that we find ourselves, hey, Marguerite, hey, praise God to UCC. You would think that with us being in this pandemic and with us having to shelter in, that would put a cap on the violence that is happening in our communities. Certainly we see, and we do not argue, the effects of the brutality against Black and brown people by police officers. Black Lives Matter was founded July 13th, 2013 as a result or in response to those violent acts that are perpetrated against people of color by police officers, namely white police officers. They're not the only ones, but namely white police officers who have taken to brutalizing Black and brown people, men, and certainly our women as well. And so Black Lives Matter was founded. I understand that. What has been profound to me is the number of deaths in our community by our communities. Just over the 4th of July weekend, just over the 4th of July weekend in Chicago, which is where I was born, there were 89 victims of gun violence in Chicago. Not at the hands of Officer Kaczynski, not at the hands of a police officer, but at the hands of those people who look like us, who live in our communities. Of those 89 victims over 4th of July weekend, 17 of those victims were fatal. 17 of those shootings were fatal. Again, not at the hands of a white police officer, not at the hands of a white person, but at the hands of Black and brown people. And the number of those people who were killed, of those numbers, the higher numbers are our children. And so Expose the Monster is about us. Yes, we march and we protest against the mistreatment and the brutalization of Black and brown people at the hands of the police. But I am here to bring us to a greater attention and awareness and a fight towards revitalizing, not just revitalizing, but safeguarding our community from those within our community who would kill the community.
Well,
people are afraid to be seen as victims. People are afraid to turn in their loved ones. And so they would rather hide and protect the monster over the lives, watch this, of children who are just innocently being who they are, but shot down. It makes no sense for a 3-year-old child who is just getting a fresh haircut to be taken out by a barrage of bullets that was meant for his father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we don't, then that father won't stand up and be accountable for what that is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense that a 14-year-old girl is dancing in her bedroom innocently. And because Junebug, Pookie, and Bebe them can't keep it together, a barrage of bullets go out, and that innocent 14-year-old who's dancing in her home, shot dead in the neck, killed. But we don't want to say anything. Mm-hmm. We don't want to say anything. We don't want to. We want to talk about systemic racism, and that's important. And I think we have to talk about that. We want to talk about the effects of slavery on the Black community, and I think we need to talk about that. But at some point, we have to hold ourselves responsible for the things that are happening in our communities.
I could not agree with you. I could not agree with you more. And I think everything that you said made absolutely perfect sense. But here's the deal. There are people who will fight us tooth and nail on, we've been disadvantaged all our lives. People will fight us tooth and nail that I've tried my very best. This is the best I can do. It is what it is. I'll also challenge you, Bishop. You just preached a great sermon now. But will that sermon go anywhere beyond this pulpit this evening? And see, that's the issue I have with a lot of Black ministers, that you all know the right wording to say, you know the right essence of delivering that wording to us. But I also think that a little bit more needs to be done from the spiritual aspect. I think a little bit needs to be done from a lot of these organizations. And so I want to debate this tonight. I really do. I invited people to join us in this conversation. You guys, this actually was a post on my Facebook page 6 days ago when the 3-year-old little girl was shot and killed. I said on my Facebook page, why are we not looting and protesting all these babies getting shot? This SHIT is unacceptable. Come on, Chicago, we've got to do better. And when I did the post, a couple of people snapped back. How dare you? I got that. I did. But then other people was like, yep, Art, I'm with you. I co-sign what you're saying. And so that's how this conversation came about tonight. And so joining us in on this conversation is a gentleman who has served as co-host on the show before. He is a gentleman who is all about helping relationships to go through their rehab period. And he was a great co-host. He has a wonderful show on YouTube. I just appreciate him for being here tonight, but he wanted to be a part of this conversation as well too. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the host of the Relationship Rehab, the one and only Mr. Brian Redmond, former Chicagoan as well too. Hey brother, how you doing?
I'm wonderful, sir. How are you, man? I really feel special getting introduced like that.
I know. We need your volume up just a little bit more if we could.
Absolutely. Hang on 1 second.
Let's see.
Is that better?
Much better. Can you hear him,
All right.
Bishop?
He can come up a little more. That would be great.
Yeah, if he can come up a little bit. Just a little bit more.
All right, hold on. What about now?
We getting
perfect.
Yeah.
Getting there? All right.
Yeah. Brian, do me a favor. Give everybody, I gave you a great intro, but tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, and your connection to Chicago.
Absolutely. So my name is Brian Redmond. I have a YouTube channel. I actually have 2 YouTube channels. One is called the Relationship Rehab. The other one is called the United Guns of America. And pretty much what those channels are about. The Relationship Rehab is just that. It's about me doing a show and having a platform that is about just rehabbing relationships, the way that we relate to each other, whether it be as lovers, friends, family members. I'm a firm believer that we all, and Black people especially, we all are in need of dire just working on better ways to communicate with each other and to build and to continue to strengthen relationships. The way that we interact with each other as family members and as friends, I think it really does matter as far as how we grow and how we progress in this world. So I dedicated an entire platform to just literally talk about those things, call those things out that we need to call out to make ourselves better versions of ourselves, essentially. My other channel is the United Guns of America. And what that channel is pretty much dedicated to is, for the most part, just talking about gun safety, talking about Pro 2A. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I am definitely Pro 2A, as you can see. And I am just one of those people to where I wanted to provide a platform that provides information. And I talk about different guns, gun reviews, situational awareness. And one of the biggest things about my channel is that I review a lot of police interactions, a lot of police shootings. I call out the good, the bad, and the ugly, just to make people more aware. I think one of the biggest things about us as people and us as Black people, we don't know the law and we don't know how things go. We are really good at describing how we feel, especially in the moment. We are really good at just saying what our feelings are and telling people what ain't right and what we feel is right. But that has nothing to do with the law and how the law is and how the law is enforced. So I have a channel that's dedicated to do that. I'm born and raised in Chicago on the South Side in the Wild Hundreds. Shout out to everybody in Rosen and West Pullman. I grew up there, born in 1974, and I didn't leave there until 2011. So I definitely am well aware and well versed with the streets. I have been on both sides of the fence. I even spent 2 years in law enforcement when I moved to Michigan. So I think I'm kind of well versed on a lot of different stuff. I can do a little bit of everything, but that's just pretty much me in a nutshell. And I'm so glad that you actually provided this opportunity for us to have a discussion. And I thank you. And I'm so proud of you and what you do, man. But it's an honor to be here.
Somebody said you from the Wild Wild.
That's right.
Somebody
they know it. Wild, wild. They know it. Wild, wild.
Right. Well, last but not least, and we always say beauty for last, is a young lady. She is Miss Monique Young, and she's an excellent graphic artist, community activist, a woman who's very involved in the community. And so I must say, I've been knowing Monique for many, many just wonderful years. And she actually was one of the people who chimed in on the post. And so tonight we're adding a female voice to this. We're getting her opinion from being out there and involved with our community. Ladies and gentlemen, let's add Monique in. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. I could not live up to the words. I promise you. So I'm supposed to introduce myself, right? I am. Okay. I'm 39. I am a Black woman living with albinism. So my perspective is a little different. I do see, I won't say both sides because I don't see things from a Caucasian perspective, but I definitely do get, the whole flack from being light-skinned or being a light-skinned woman, especially with naturally blonde hair and blue eyes. So it's like I feel like I see the world in a different way. I wouldn't call myself an activist. I'm definitely out here trying to help and do what I can, raising my 2 boys as a single parent. So design-wise, that's what I love. I have not touched graphic design in a little bit. So I do have a website on Facebook. So, a Facebook page is Moriel Designs. It does display some of my work. I'm trying to get back into that. But what made me comment on the post that you spoke about is just that I feel like we have so much opposition outside of our own community. And it's not that we shouldn't be opposed to the negative things that go on amongst each other, because those are the things that's primarily affecting us on our really day-to-day life. Everything else is on a bigger scale. And so to see us saying the things that the I hate to say it, but the racist community is saying, which is, well, when they kill each other, they don't do anything, or when they kill each other, it's not the same reaction. I just feel like the expectation is a little different. Let me know if I'm talking too long, but I just feel like the expectation is a little it's a little different, because in the community we don't expect the cops, the people that our tax dollars pay to protect us, the ones that we call when we need assistance or help, to be the ones that's terrorizing us. I have 2 boys, and I definitely do have that fear when they're out and it's a certain time of night, or if they're with a certain amount of friends. I feel like, oh Lord, there's too many of them. Somebody's going to say something to them. And at this point, they're only 16 and 14, but they're 6'1" and 6'2". So in the eyes of the law, this is a man that they see. And look at Tamir Rice, look at Trayvon Martin, who wasn't killed by a cop, but he was killed due to racism, vigilantism that was upheld by the law, because there was no investigation until we demanded there be an investigation. And yes, we should have those same demands on one another. And we've had rallies, we have stopped the violence. I remember I grew up in the 90s, and rappers and everybody has made the effort for our community, but it's so much bigger than the gangbangers that you see on the block. Where are the guns and drugs coming from? Okay, I'll be quiet, but
no, wait, we love it. Wait, hold on, you're doing a great job, because that's what this conversation is all about. I want to get this dialogue going. That's what I told everybody. This is not a finger pointing. This is not a name calling. Monique, I love the fact that you are who you are, first of all, to begin with, that you even explain that. Secondly, you are a mom to 2 teenage boys who are rather large young men, wonderful young men, and you have a huge concern. We as Black men will never understand what a Black mother goes through, but as Black men
understand what you go through. That's the thing. It's like we watch it and we see, but the fear is totally different, especially for me. That's why I think I felt when you asked me, I was like, maybe I'm not the person to speak on this, because I don't experience racism in the same way as a person without albinism, a Black person who is just a regular melanated, I'm out here on my, you know what I mean, Black magic. I'm different. And so I kind of blend into some people, or they don't know what I am. And so the racism, my experience is not on that level of necessarily somebody following me around the store. It's a different type. It's the on paper kind. It's the in the classroom kind, that systematic racism that we all experience, no matter how light or dark we are Black people. And so we don't know what each other experience as a gender or individually, but it's like we all experience. And should I be afraid of the police? If they are as they are described or defined, and we're not talking about all police, because I have a friend who's a policeman and he's awesome. Like, he's a community person. He actually talks to these children. He'll actually I won't say he's out here not locking people up. I don't want to get nobody in trouble, but he's definitely a great police officer. He's the kind that we want in our community. But there's so many in our community that we don't know where they're coming from until it happens. And it is scary. My kids have been stopped by the police before, and he was 14, and he knew, because I've taught him, you know what I mean, that that's the authority. You're not fighting back. You answer his questions, you be respectful, and you look him in the eye, you know what I mean, but you don't challenge him. And even in the moment of him telling me that happened, all I could do was thank God that my kid is standing here telling me this story, and that this child wasn't so aggressive or arrogant and feeling that they needed to do something because here this kid is taller or bigger than me, or whatever the issue might be.
Right. So here's my question that I want to bring the gentleman in to kind of chime in. Monique, outstanding job that you're doing. Gentlemen, where did we fall apart as a race of people? Bishop, would that be an appropriate way to start this? How do we move this dialogue forward? Because Monique has brought up several different things that we need to pick apart tonight. Brian, with you being former law enforcement, you can chime in on that. But I'm trying to figure out, where did we as Black people fall apart. We were a cohesive group. We were a group that was law abiding, searching for the American dream, all of that. And keep in mind, we were taken from our homeland. We were brought over here, put in slavery, all of that. Bishop, when did we lose it all?
Well, I think you said one word that I wrote down: cohesion. Cohesion. There is a lack of cohesion now in our communities. My heart breaks for our sister because she said she's a single mother, and we're not holding any kind of or casting any dispersions on our single mothers.
Here we go.
But we understand that two are better than one.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the family breaks down in that dynamic, that breakdown then trickles down, where there's not the balance between mom and dad to lead our sons and our daughters. I think that's part of a breakdown. I think our disconnect from any kind of value that holds us accountable. I'm a Christian. I preach Jesus, but I'm also aware that there are others who are Muslim or whatever that faith tradition is that holds you accountable, that higher source that lifts you. We become disconnected and not cohesive in that manner. And so it's really difficult for us to stand as a unit with those kinds of fractures. I think we've got to really get back to the root of our family unit. I agree about the effects of slavery, but it's 2020, and I'm not downplaying those effects, but we've got some very real choices that we can make right now that we are not powerless to make. I grew up on the west side of Chicago where there was no good expected to come out of the west side of Chicago. They said that about Jesus. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? And then out pops Jesus. Can anything good come off of the west side of Chicago? Sure. But because my father passed away when I was younger, but I had a father figure and a mother who helped me navigate. My mother didn't have to do it alone. She didn't have to traverse that terrain with me alone. And so there were choices in us. There were choices before us that I was able to make, either to pick up the gun, pick up the crack pipe, or go to that ballet class. Through the dangers of Cabrini Green, going through those rough neighborhoods, there were choices we had to make and I had help navigating them. One, through a solid family structure, and then two, through a faith community that pushed me forward.
But then, Pastor Bishop, let me say this to you. Not everybody is afforded that opportunity. Not everybody has that same makeup. You and I came from a time, and I'm older than you, you're younger than me, but both of these people that are our guests tonight, they've seen a dynamic like no other. The broken home, the missing parent, the thing like this, and they've seen the deconstruct of the Black family. And what we've got to do is try to get that Black family back into place, because we always laugh and joke about Big Mama and Pop and people like that. People don't have that kind of option anymore. They don't have the nurturing of the community like they had before. And then here's the deal. People that are older now could give zero you-know-whats about, look, just don't come in my house, just don't bother me and leave me alone. And so there are so many dynamics that have changed our Black family. Brian, go right ahead and chime in.
Here's the thing from my perspective. The two places where we went wrong. Number one, if we want to go back, not even so far back to slavery, but we went wrong, number one, with integration. And here's why I say that. After slavery, when we became sharecroppers and we were struggling as Black folks, one of the things we did, one of the biggest things that we did was that we stuck together. And we stuck together because we had to stick together. Integration is one of those things that destroyed that. It literally was one of the main threads that started to tear apart the Black family. Once we got to a point to where we were on our own, and you can go back and this is documented. We were number one in families. We were number one in married families. We were leading the pack when it came to that. We didn't get divorced. We stayed together through whatever. And it was all about us because all we had was us. The other thing that destroyed us and led us down this path was during the 70s, in that time to where Title IV came about, which we all know as public assistance. And one of the biggest things about that was no man in the home.
Yep.
The fact that fathers have been taken out of the home is the main catalyst that led us to where we are today. When daddy didn't have to be there no more and mama started to depend on the government instead of her man, that's when we got to this point, because what it did was it put a lot of mothers in the home with these children. Now, it wasn't an instant thing that occurred because you still had uncles around, you still had granddaddies, you still had big mamas who were from dual parent homes.
That's right.
All right. So once we got to that point, and over the years, once those fathers and those uncles, what happened to them? Everybody remembers your uncle came home from the war. He was kind of crazy, but then he didn't have no kids. He didn't have too many kids after that. So men started to literally trickle off. Granddaddy and grandpapa died. How many of us can think back to the 70s and to the early 80s when we can clearly say, when granddaddy died, that's when the family fell apart. When big mama died, that's when the family fell apart. Because there were no other men to step up in the community. Those same men that were around over the years, they started to literally just die off from old age. And then we ushered in what? Gang violence, the pimping, and all of the Mac, and what was the other one? I can't think of the other movie, but Superfly, the Mac and Superfly. What did that teach us? That taught us to become pimps, become gangsters. We walking around. We were more concerned about diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with gangster lean than we were about our families.
Yep.
Hey, now, wait, that's my song now.
Yeah.
Now,
and
so what trying to get me a Volkswagen Rabbit with a diamond in the back and a sunroof.
Everybody wanted to be priests. I mean, and I tell you, I'm born in 74. I remember that. We all wanted to be smooth. We wanted to have a bunch of hoes, and we wanted to show everybody we was players and pimps. We had players balls. That's what we did. And over the years, more and more single mothers, they began to get younger. And because of that, there was no family structure. So those children were growing up without guidance, without structure, without those daddies. The father is the protector. He is the gatekeeper. He is the one who determines what comes in and out of the home. He determines who comes in and out of the homes. He was that one that kept everything in order. And once he died off, once good old-fashioned 1994 crime bill came into effect and everybody started getting locked up or shot up, it destroyed our family structure and it left a generation of children unguided, which is why we're here where we're at today. And we have these mothers that have been perpetuating this, unfortunately, because they have made bad choices in the men that they choose to not sleep with, but to have children with. It's come to a point to where what the system has done, it has made public assistance literally a career path for a lot of our inner city single Black mothers. It's easier for a woman to have a baby and get paid, get food, clothing, and shelter from the system than it is for them to go to college. And when you're talking about a group of people that have no guidance, they don't have a daddy to tell them what to do and what not to do. What are they going to do? They're going to pick the path of least resistance. I'm going to choose the easy one. So it's easier for me to have 3 kids to get $1,800 worth of food stamps every month and to be in a house that I only got to pay $12 a month in rent than it is for me to stay single and not have any children until I get married and go to college and get myself a career and do for myself and then start to have a family. So that's how.
All right. With that being said, now Monique, I don't want this to be a sling fest. Do you of what the gentlemen have said so far? What are your thoughts and opinions on it? A lot of what was said, I agree, but then there are some things I think we might need to debate a little bit.
I don't think that it was anything wrong with anything that either one of them said. I don't feel like we should generalize, and I'm not saying that anybody was, but you have to think about the audience, and everybody does not like know, what you mean. So when you directly say women, 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 it was so many things. I wish I would have wrote it down. But the first thing I want to agree with the stuff that I agree with first, which is that I don't know if he said segregation, but I'm going to go ahead and say that segregation did help to destroy and disrupt.
It was integration. Integration.
Yeah. Oh God.
That's okay. That's all right. That's all right.
Okay. So integration, correct. Integration, when we were allowed to join into the white community, buy into the white community, we stopped caring about ours, and it was done in such a way that we wanted it, instead of, and this, I don't even think we didn't take pride in having our own things. I do believe that it was made easier with integration. You think the schools are better and all of this, but if you really look back into the 40s and 50s, where the people, the communities, you had your own doctors, the teachers and everything, the 30s, the 20s, all of the people that you saw as a, I guess as a role model or positive figure around you was not white, or another race of people, and then a sprinkle of Black doctors, a sprinkle of Black teachers in your universities. Because of course, maybe in the elementary you have more. But I know for me, going to college, going to the hospital or the doctor's office or the dentist's office, in those places, what you were not seeing is that much of you in there. And so you almost see them as some type of authority. But let me bring it on back. Anyway, segregation is, I think, one of the main things that did it. The war, the so-called, war on drugs, when Reagan had all those drugs to come into the community right after, of course, the war. These are people who already are addicted. I think that the drugs of the 80s and the destruction of those groups that we did have that were for the community, like the Black Panthers, some of these gangs like the Black Stones and stuff, those were meant to protect our community. They were not intended to, but now you're giving these drugs and guns, and that's what you're doing. I want to bring it back to the women, though, when you were saying like the government has made it easy for our structure to be torn down. That's absolutely true with the projects, with systems that are supposed to meant to be a crutch and then are made a wheelchair where you just using it all the time. I don't think there's anything wrong with those systems. They're not intended to be for a lifetime. And this isn't the 80s. Like, these women aren't just living the good life that I know of off of public assistance. Like, that is also kind of an enslaved life, because you are now held to a certain income level. You are held to live in certain only areas. It's a backdrop to it. And let's not just place all the blame on the women's bad choices. These are bad choices of two people who have sex. If the man walks away, yeah, that was a bad choice for her to lay down with him, but it was a bad choice for him to bust in her. You know what I mean? And have a baby. That's what they both did. I don't like to hear the tearing down of the Black woman when it's Black women. We are the backbone and have been the backbone of the Black community. We remain that. We have been since slavery. And so a lot of these attitudes of that, the women are making that bad choice. It's a choice all around. We need grandmothers again, like you said. When I was a kid, you had your mom, you had your grandmother, your aunties. It was a family unit. We live in it's become more individualistic as society has moved forward since I was born in the 80s to now. You could see the change of it going from being about us and a family thing, even with the TV shows and the way that it's reflected in like the things that we're watching and the music. It was just different. And so I think, we are a reflection now of all of so many different things. It's not one place to blame, but I definitely would start with integration, because that is when the decision to stay within, keep our dollars within, it just changed. And we were so happy to be accepted by mainstream America that we forgot that, our community, this is where we have to live. This is where we have to thrive. And if we're not putting into it, then we're not going to get anything out of it. And what we see today is a reflection of a group of people who is not willing to put into the community. We're only willing to put into ourselves, like in a superficial way. You know, how I look, what I wear, what I drive, who I hang with, and what I drink, and not what it is that I do and what I give. And it doesn't mean from a money standpoint. You can volunteer. I volunteered. My boys volunteered during COVID especially. And it's important for us to teach that to our children. And also, a single mom doesn't mean there is not a dad. It means that there is not a dad living in the home. And it's a difference in being in the home and not, but not all single moms, you know, just out here with kids and don't have a father. Nowadays, people are co-parenting, people are divorcing and co-parenting. People are having children at a younger age in my day, but now it's not as many teen parents as it used to be. People are.
That's right.
But
right.
Like it was when I was a kid. They was pregnant. You understand what I'm saying? You go look back at the pictures, and they in the lock. One of the girls, at least in the group, was pregnant. And I'm not making fun. I'm keeping it 100 because we were kept away from sex education. We were kept away from certain information, and just driven toward don't do this. That's wrong. Instead of being educated as to why. And then when we do make it, where are we? We're not back in the community talking to the children that come from where we come from and telling them what we know. We don't look back when we leave. And that's another problem. We do not look back, you know, once we.
Okay.
So
very good. Monique, I got it. Go ahead. Brian and then Bishop, I'll come to you in just a second. Go right ahead.
I'm going to try to explain real quick why I put the greater share of the responsibility on the women. If you look at how responsibility goes, one of the things that said in Spider-Man, Peter Parker's uncle, what he said was, with great power comes great responsibility. When you look at a football team, I try to give this analogy. When you look at a football team, when a team is winning, everything is great. But when a team is losing, the main person they look at is the quarterback. And the reason why they look at the quarterback, because the quarterback is the leader. The quarterback is the person who actually initiates the execution of the plays. Now, it's not always the case that it's the quarterback's fault, but the quarterback shares the responsibility of the wins as well as the losses. The reason why I say that is because when it comes to women and when it comes to who they allow to enter their body, they're in control solely. When it comes to when they get pregnant, they determine if they want to keep it. It's completely up to them. And that's a lot of power. They literally determine life or death, almost like a god. When you're talking about what the man's responsibility is, sexual irresponsibility is one thing, but actually bringing forth a life, that is solely in the hands of a woman. If a man could decide, if it was a joint decision on abortion, or a joint decision on if you're going to have a baby or if you're going to put the baby up for adoption, then it would be equal. But because it is not, then a woman has to take the responsibility that she's been given because of the power she has. And that's why I say it, what I said and the way I said it. And it's not to bash, it's just the reality of it. If a woman gets pregnant by a man and he does not want to have that kid, he literally has no legal standing and no legal power. It is completely up to her. So whether I have $2 in my pocket or if I have $22 million in my pocket, I have to suffer the responsibilities, or if I want her to have it and she decides not to, I have to suffer the loss. That there, it shows the imbalance of power. And because of that, you have to take the good with the bad. Because just like when you have somebody like LeBron James' mama, she front and center. That's my baby. I love my baby. Yes, he did it. When you look at Kevin Durant, when he won his championship, who was right there? His mama holding his face like he was 4 years old. That's my baby. You did it. That's fine. Strong black woman, I get it. But when you have little Ray Ray, little Nuck Nuck, little James, little Man, when they out there with that 9mm and they letting it go bang, you got to take that responsibility too. All them kids going home to single mamas. All of those kids, when you look at the numbers of crime, when you look at the numbers of these kids that's in jail, these kids that are in juvenile detention centers, they are by single mothers. That's a fact. And you gotta take the good with the bad.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, Monique, and then I'll let the bishop sign.
I don't disagree with you on what you said. I just don't want it to be a black woman is the reason thing. When, a woman does have, I don't even want to keep going back and forth about this. I feel you on that. Because
and all I'm saying is
argument, it's really not. My only point is to say that to place I don't like to argue the single mother thing. I believe the kid needs a mother and a father. I am never going to make a man because I'm not a man. I can add and contribute to the type of man you will become. You understand what I'm saying? I can try to mold, that as far as you being a good person, but I can't make, I'm not a man. And I'm not the type of woman that's going to say, tell me Hockey's father.
And I agree with that 1000%. You are so right with that. You're so right with that. But one of the things, and even when I counsel people, when I talk to them, I say, how do you expect a father or a man to be a father when he didn't have a father? Mm-hmm. When a man has no blueprint, how can you expect him to build that thing?
So let me
hold on, just let me finish 2 seconds. To build, I'm just saying, just to be that thing that you want him to be. But the thing is, if you look at that and you don't see a man who comes from a father, a grandfather, a great grandfather, he has no blueprint. So when you do get pregnant by that man, why would you say, well, let's try to build a family with this guy, even though he don't have a father, he don't know.
I'm not defending being a single mother or having a child young. What I am going to say is that I'm not going to try to make logic of what a teenage girl does, because a lot of that is because they're young. Like, it's not 35-year-old. I mean, I'm sure it's some, but that's not the vast majority of where the single parenthood began. And so for me to sit up here and try to say what a little girl is doing is what I'm going to defend or make sense of, that's not what I'm going to do. And this isn't even about necessarily parenting and choices that we make. Like that right there, that one topic is a whole conversation. All I was saying, bottom line, is that we're not going to sit and bash what the Black woman's role is in us being torn down. We can bash each other all day long. That's the problem, is that we continue to bash instead of making your point and moving on. And it's almost like, I'm not even gonna go there. It's I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're trying to relate. I just want to make sure that everyone is clear that that's not, to me, that's not a solid reason as to the destruction of the family, is that Black women are having children with men that they don't know well. We all are having children with each other that don't know each other well. And that's not even a Black just thing. That's America. You look on Maury over here. All right, I'm sorry.
No. I just wanted to, because all of this, I now see 3 other shows as a result of this.
And I'm not,
honey, look.
I'm sorry if I'm coming off like I
don't apologize.
Totally don't.
Monique, no, you have become a runaway star on this damn show tonight. You have become a runaway star. Trust me, I'm getting text messages. It's about 10 other topics we need to have, and you in the topic. Go ahead, bitch.
I'm really enjoying myself, though. I was so nervous to come and do it because I'm just like, I am not a representative for stuff. I just have my opinions about things, and that's
Monique, what. Let me stop you, because I don't want you to downplay yourself.
I'm not.
Ideologies. I just want you to not even to apologize for it. I think Art, can you put me back on the full picture so I can see everybody?
Yes. Right, here we go.
I feel like here's the root. There are some very hard truths that we may not like, but we have to acknowledge. You don't like the way it sounds. That I tell my sister this all the time. You knew Junebug wasn't any good before you laid down with him. What the hell make you think he was going to be good after you laid down with him? And you knew for damn sure, and this is the bishop talking, that he wasn't going to be good when that baby was coming in the world. That's on you.
That's
It's a hard truth to hold, but it's on you. But even beyond that, even
That's
beyond
why
that,
I reserve Junebug for booty calls only.
what, listen, wait a minute, because those booty calls.
I digress.
No, hold on, Art, because those booty calls is where we get in trouble. Now,
Right.
I mean, let's just be real about it. But so let me bring it back to where we are in terms of exposing the monster. Because we can talk about slavery and systemic racism until we're blue in the face. But here is the problem. We have made some choices beyond that keeps us in this kind of perpetual state, or this state of perpetual brokenness.
Yes.
We've made those choices. There was not an Officer Kaczynski who made Junebug shoot those guns that killed that 14-year-old girl who was dancing in her bedroom.
Exactly.
And that mother who now has to bury her child could give a damn about systemic racism, could give a damn about any of it. She knows that now she has a 14-year-old child whose life has been snuffed out, and that Junebug is hiding out somewhere, and we ain't doing a doggone thing about it. A doggone thing about it. So we've got to make some choices that beyond the fight for equality and dismantling pathologies, that we gotta get back in. My mama would say, I don't give a good god darn what's going on in Kevin's house. I care about what's going on in this house.
Exactly.
And so when people talk to me about saying, ain't nobody saying nothing about white people killing each other, I say, I don't care about what's going on in the white community. I care that on the south side of Chicago, people are being killed on the daily by us.
Let
me say this, because I was talking to a friend. I was like, and we show up in great numbers when Officer Kaczynski does it, but we only show up 50 deep when it's Tyrone Junebug Bebe now.
Yep. And that's because the other ones, they know him.
Yeah.
They know Junebug. They related to Junebug.
And they're holding him. They're holding him.
Yep.
They're holding
him. Stitches. Yeah.
They're holding him. And so beyond we can talk about the choices we make of who we sleep with and all of that. That's great.
Right.
No, Jerome, I'm not off point, because here's the point of the show. The point of the show is we've got to stop killing in our own neighborhood. That's the point of the show. We got to get in our own neighborhood and show up on the corners and say, you are not going to shoot today. And if you are, then you're going to take all of us out. Because believe it or not, the Bayard Rustins, the Martin Kings, they all showed up and threw it all on the line. If you're going to take a life, you're going to take all of our lives.
Yep.
And we're not showing up that deep anymore.
Monique, in response to that?
Well, I want to say, I agree with you. I don't disagree that it should stop, that the killing has to stop, and that us killing each other it's been a problem, and it's been a problem before I was born. That's been a problem in the Black community. I just my only issue with it being brought up when a police does something, we sound like our opposition first, because don't wait until what was that officer's name? Don't wait until he does something and we get mad and now we care. First of all, Chicago has been violent, and I'm going to use Chicago for an example, because we get a lot of national press right now for the past few years for being Chirac. It has always been this violent here. It has always been this violent here. It always has been. So I don't want us to wait until we are fighting against the system to now say, let's look within. And let's use your house example. I'm in the house and I'm worried about what's going on in my house. And then somebody sets my whole lawn around the house on fire. And then my kid goes and he sets something, I don't even say set it on fire, but he knocked something down in the house. I'm going to make sure that I put that fire outside out, because you cannot just deal with what's in the house when it is such an extreme blaze around your house.
But the house is where the education starts.
I understand,
right?
but I'm talking about when it's a severity. I mean, and I don't know about you all, but I feel like racism in this country has gotten to such a severity that a civilian who is just racist can just kill me because they feel like it.
Right, but we can say the same. But we can say the
so
same.
I'm not saying that what's going on in our neighborhoods is not important. Do not wait until we have a platform to get this stopped. When they're saying they're going to defund the police, when they're telling these policemen that you will be held accountable for a chokehold now, and other things that's going on, I can't list because I didn't write down my points for today because I just wanted to be real, But anyway, that has all happened. You know what I'm saying? And now we want to talk about what's and it's kind of a coincidence that all of those things are now being national news. Let's look and see how many times this has occurred prior to this situation with us and with Black America, basically demanding that you now stop and get your knee off of our necks. I want you to get his knee off my neck and then go tell, whatever. Or if we're going to do both, let's do it in solidarity. I don't need us fighting and trying to get something done. That's the problem.
Let me ask you a question, Monique.
Say one last thing.
Okay.
We don't unify. Whenever we have something going on, Black people tend to always separate by gender, especially religion, class, education. Boom. Now we can't come together because you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, or you're a Buddhist. I don't like you because you have a homosexual lifestyle, which is none of my business. But now all of a sudden we can't come together. I don't want to deal with them because I have a master's degree. She didn't even graduate high school. So when you have that type of mentality going on within the group, we have a lot of problems that we need to fight against. But when we have the voice of the people that can actually try to make some of these I'm not talking about these cosmetic changes. I'm talking about real actual laws and stuff. Don't start shedding light and turning the flashlight back around at us. We know what we have going on. We can do that. We don't have to do it in front of everybody, is what I'm saying.
Let me ask you this, Monique. I'm a general surgeon, okay? I'm working in the emergency room. You walking down the street and a white person comes up to you, punches you in the eye, takes a knife and cuts your hand, and then shoots you in the stomach. Mm-hmm. Fortunately enough, this happened to you a block away. You walk into the emergency room, you have a black eye, you have a cut on your hand, and you have a gunshot wound to the stomach. I'm the general surgeon. What do you want me to address first?
Whatever is life-threatening.
What would you?
I'm going to expect you to do that with your expertise, and you tell me what you're gonna do because my insurance is paying you. You see what I'm saying?
So
if you do the wrong thing, that's the problem for everybody.
You got top of the line Obamacare. Your paperwork that went through, and now I got to do my thing as a doctor. Okay. The first thing I'm gonna address is the gunshot wound to your stomach because it is the most threatening. Yes, you are still hurt by the knife wound. Yes, you are still hurt by the black eye. The most important, the clear and present danger to your life is gunshot wound to the stomach. Mm-hmm. What you're saying is that, and I understand what you're saying, and you're right. The other things that are going on when you're talking about police brutality, that's a punch in the eye. When you're talking about systemic racism, that's a cut on your hand. When you're talking about the gun violence that's going on in our communities every single day, that is the gunshot wound to the stomach. Yeah. That's just what it is. We can address all three, but first things first. It's just like when you go through a 12-step program, whether it's for Alcoholics Anonymous, Drug Addicts Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, it don't matter. The first thing you have to do is acknowledge that you're an addict. That's where we're stuck. Yeah. We won't acknowledge that the clear and present danger to Black folks, unfortunately, is Black folks. Black folks. When I'm in the hood, when I'm on Harold, when I'm at Harold on 127th and Halsted, I'm not worried about Officer Kuczynski doing something to me. I'm worried about them niggas getting off the 127th bus, coming up in there wanting to rob me. That's what I'm worried about. When I carry my gun, I'm prepared for everything, but I'm looking out when I'm in the hood for niggas. That's just what it is. And it's a bad thing and it's hurtful, but we have to call a thing before we can address it. So yes, the systemic racism, police brutality, police kill about 1,000 people a year unjustly. Compared to that, we knocked that out in the first 6 months in Chicago alone.
Yes, alone.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so let me add this real quick. I see both sides of this. I've gotten tons of feedback, and people are saying what an incredible conversation tonight. Somebody say y'all go to your damn corners because this has been really good. I should have sold tickets to this tonight. I should have sold tickets to this tonight. This would have been better than pay-per-view. You understand me? So this conversation will continue to go on through the month of July because there's a lot that we really do need to talk about. Now, right. And here's the deal. Now, I'm going to just give my own personal experience about just my own race of people and how we really do need to look at how can we be better at things. I'm looking at the recent, looting, all of the things that went on. If you already live in an economically challenged community, why in the hell would you tear up your damn community? I don't get that. I don't. And being somebody that is new to a community that is on the up and come, being someplace where the home value, you get more for your money in the city now, wanting to stay in the city, but yet I can't even go walk and get a loaf of bread if I want to because you've torn up everything. There are no ATM machines in the neighborhood anymore. Yep. There are still boards on the windows of places that are open. So I'm not getting, if you already in the damn ghetto, why would you tear the ghetto up anymore? Because see, here's what's going to happen. Soon as they announce that Obama library is coming, y'all got to go anyway. And they're going to take all of the things that's been towed down, board it up, and shutter and turn it into what I want it to be. So I just, but I don't understand when you have prime real estate, you live close to somewhere and you don't even want to fix up your property. I that part I don't get. I don't. Yes. But okay. I digress. All right. Anybody else?
About that too? West Pullman, for instance, where I'm from, West Pullman was one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the city. The rich folks stay in West Pullman. If you drive through West Pullman and just take away the ghetto aspect of it and look at the home, we got a Frank Lloyd Wright house in the center of West Pullman.
Yeah,
it's literally a landmark. You can't change it. You can't touch it. You can't do nothing to it. Yep. That was affluent people lived there. The Pullman porters and all of them, they either lived in Pullman or wanted to move into West Pullman. Yeah. It was a beautiful place. And those things that we had in our community, we had everything. The parks were amazing. We had land, we had everything. But over the time that took place, when we let the violence come in and we didn't take a stand against it, it destroyed it. Those houses that were $150,000, $200,000 are now
$30,000. Yep.
$30,000 homes.
Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah.
We had the number 2 school. Ralph H. Metcalf was the number 2 school in the Chicago public school system, a magnet school. I went there, graduated. Shout out to class of 1988. But kids were bused in from all over the city to that school. All over the city. So when we have those things, it's not like we ain't got nothing. It's just that we don't invest in and we don't actually put into the things that we do have. No, we ain't got to live like we white folk, but we need to take care of our stuff like we are. That's all we're trying to say. There is no justification to tear up a Target, to tear up a Walmart because we mad about George Floyd. Be mad. And if you're going to tell something,
go down to the Magnificent Mile.
Go tear up the white folks' neighborhood. Go down to the Magnificent Mile and tear up the bean if you want to tear something up. Don't tear up your own home. And those people that were out there chanting and cheering with us, white folks, Hispanic folks, you know what they did after the looting was over? They drove back to their suburbs. They went back to Indiana. They went back to Wisconsin with all their loot. Yeah, they left us down there. And we turned around and looked back and said, I can't even go get no donuts.
Yep.
No. Can't go get a loaf of
But you know
bread.
what? Here's
Can't
the
go get a
thing.
bag of
Here's the
ice.
thing,
Can't go
Monique.
get nothing.
Monique, here's the thing that I agree with you, because you just alluded to it. And we started with this word at the beginning. Cohesion. Cohesion. About us. Say that again?
I said I wanted to respond to him, but I'm gonna let you. I mean, I was listening, but I really do not. I don't want to interrupt, so that's why I might look down.
No, it's good. I just think it's about us. It's about us coming back together again to value ourselves at center. That's what it's about. Certainly for me, raising children right now, today, because we have to start today. Start today. And it's right now, today, making these young people aware of their value, the value of life, to preserve life. Even when those around you want to tear you down and kill you dead in the street, the example that we have to give our children today is to preserve and to protect and honor life. That's the thing for me. That's the thing for me. I go back to that idea of the house, and I think about it like a family. You know, there's the expectation that the family will preserve the family. The family will safeguard the family. Now I think about that in a broader construct, that we as Black people are a larger family that we have to preserve and protect ourselves, especially when there's a bounty on our heads.
Mm-hmm. And I don't disagree with that in any way. I don't disagree with there needing to be a change and an effective change, and one that we all have to be willing, you know, not just some of us, not just those of us in a certain age or class. And that's what the bottom line is. You're it's almost like I'm not saying what I'm trying to say in the way that is being relayed to you all. It's not. I don't need you to agree with me. I just want you to understand what it is I'm saying. And what I'm saying is not that we should not protest what goes on or have some resistance to what's going on in our communities. We should be resistant to that. All of the things that you spoke on are correct. This is the problem. I'm going to use an example. I'm going to do like y'all do. So if the United States, I'm serious, you're not going to tell the president not to go and bomb when the stuff happened. Let's use 2011. I mean, 2000. What is it? 9/11. That was like what, 2001, I think.
Yes.
9/11. When that happened, was anybody going to stop the president and say, "Hey, what about all the crime that's going on in this country? Let's deal with that first. Let's not go over there and fight the people who, you know, we all know that everybody has their idea of what that really was, but I'm going to use that as an example anyway. You're not going to tell the United States not to fight a country or not to go to war with a country that it feels threatened by because of the crime that's going on in the United States. That can be addressed internally. You're not, all I'm saying is that's an internal thing that we should constantly be working on at all times. But to publicly or I've seen that a lot down my timeline, that, you know, the rioters, where the rioters at, all these kids down, where the protesters at, or where's the why ain't nobody doing that? And it breaks your heart, because as much as I agree with what it is they're saying, I don't want us to wait until it's about something else to turn it back on us. That should be a constant. And yes, we do have to unify. And yes, family is definitely one of the main reasons that we don't have that, is because of the destruction of the Black family, the destruction of the Black man and woman, you know, through so many different, I won't even get into what, but I mean, not just society, but even what we see on TV, what we see outside. But you got to understand that crime happens in areas where there's a lot of poverty, where the people have no resources. Crime is committed against the people that live in the neighborhood with those said criminals. So not just us, but all people. Nobody's going outside their neighborhood to do things. And if we're gonna go and say, yes, this is happening in the hood, let's get to the bottom of why. Just saying that we ought to be against it and protest it if we can get to what the reason is, then we can try to come to a resolution of doing something about it. But only to say that, this must stop and we should protest it. I would never compare those protesters to those people who were looting. The people who was rioting they was protesting while the riots were going on in the neighborhood. And then another thing is, how come they were able to come into our neighborhoods and do that? You weren't able to go downtown and loot. You were not able to go to the Mag Mouth. Even if they wanted to go to Lincoln Park and to the Gold Coast or wherever and not saying that that's what people should have done. Let me make it clear that looting is wrong. First of all, I don't need anybody to think that this is what I'm about. I totally was pissed about it, especially because I'm now in a neighborhood that has a food desert. Like there's, there's no grocery stores. I have to eat as well. I don't drive because I have a visual impairment. So me and every other disabled elderly person who is now disenfranchised because you can't get something. Trust me, I'm angry, but I don't want to talk about my anger. All I'm saying is, that's a mentality that comes along with that looting. Those type of riots have happened throughout the decades. This is not the first time that we can tow some stuff up because the overwhelming build up. Because that's another thing. In our community, we set things to the side. We don't talk about it. We just deal with it. We teach our children that it just deal with it. It builds integrity to just deal with racism, just deal with whatever hardship that you come with. We don't talk about it. We don't discuss it. And it's the same with that stuff, that racism, what caused us to go out and do what happened was based on a build up. You understand what I'm saying? So now it's a big explosion and people who were looting took advantage of that. It was not even mostly us doing it. The burning of these buildings and things. We aren't arsonists. We want some Jordans. I don't want to burn down the police station. That's not the stuff we were doing. So I'm not going to place that responsibility on the protesters because those are two different entities. Protesters go out, they speak, they have their signs. They're actually about peace. That's the difference between somebody who decides, oh man, this is prime time, baby, let's get it. Because it was a handful, not the whole city, not the whole community. It wasn't those of us who were sitting here listening to this or talking about this. And that's the last thing I want to say is that as much as we discuss what needs to be done, ain't nobody out in the street asking these people who were saying is doing all this stuff or who may be a part of this life, why are you a part of that life? Are we out here trying to who's really willing to go and say what can get you to stop doing this? Because it's not a job or this or that, because it's jobs out here, especially right now. Food restaurants is hiring everywhere because everybody got COVID. So you can get a job. It's not about that. It's a mentality, and there's so much more to it than just the things that y'all saying. I just don't want us to blame people who are trying to fight against it as to be the problem.
Now,
we are saying the same thing in a different way.
To that point, though, Monique.
All right. Great job, Monique. Bishop, go ahead and then relationship rehab. And then I got to round out tonight's show. And it's 1 million people want to be a guest on this show now. Go ahead, Bishop.
To that point, because I think again, I want to bring us back to, because we got to get back to exposing the monster, right? And to the question that you just asked about who's going to go out there and speak to that issue. And I've got to say, right now, Dr. Otis Moss and Trinity United Church of Christ, they are doing the work. The call for us is who else is going to join. Beyond when the cameras are on us,
right?
Beyond when the lights are shined on us, right? The call is who else is going to join us in that work. That's what I'm about. Jerome and I agree with you. We got to get to the root. Yep, we got to get to the root. And I think one of the things that we noticed and we started talking about is the family structure. Yep, we talked about that. And we'll continue to explore those dynamics. But here's what's most important right now. We've got to make sure that tomorrow night, Lakeisha and baby boy and grandma, 96-year-old woman, stabbed to death with a pitchfork in Chicago.
Yeah. Yes, like what was she even doing outside? Right,
that's a choice.
Right.
What you
that's a choice somebody made, and so they didn't shoot her with a gun They didn't shoot her with a butter knife or stab her with a butter knife. They got a pitchfork. They made a choice. And so now
To stab her.
to stab her with the pitchfork. Right? That's a solid choice. And so now my big thing is surrounding that community with people who would say no more. Pastor Meeks used to have corner prayer. And I'll tell you, when folk were on the corner, the numbers were down. We did the same thing in Logan Square. When people were out and present and speaking against and acting against those things. I remember as a kid, gangbangers used to telling me to go to school. Go to school. Don't get involved with this. Take your ass to school. That's what they used to tell me, right? Those people were situated in a space to protect me from a life that could take me down. Right. And so I'm calling for those. I'm calling for those, more of the Trinity United Church of Christ to come out on the street, more of Pastor Meeks to come out on the streets and speak directly to those ills. That's what I'm saying.
Here's my thing. Right. I gotta let my relationship rehab thing. I gotta let this do its thing real quick. So Monique, one of the things that you said that I want you to, if you don't hear nothing else from me tonight, you said that you hold your anger back, and that's one of the worst things you can do. Your anger is so important.
People that wasn't a personal thing.
No, you said.
People, we do.
Yeah, no, you said like you were angry about not being able to go to the store, being angry not being able to access things in your neighborhood because it was torn down from the neighborhood. Yeah. What I'm saying
about it. I mean,
what I'm saying is your anger should be voiced, and the only reason why is because we as people, we don't understand, especially young people. They don't understand the reality and the gravity of the things that they do. And it's like, if let's just say, for instance, if I'm a young 17-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old person, and I see a woman like you that lives in my neighborhood, whether you next door or 2 blocks over, and you tell me I can't drive. So I need this store on the corner. I need to be able to walk to the corner store to get my prescription or to be able to get my bread or whatever the case may be. That resonates to a young person more because it directly affects them and they can clearly see the impact of their actions as to what they have based on what everybody else is talking about on a bigger scale. So your anger and your point of view, it is extremely important. And I would encourage you at the very least to always be willing to voice that part of your thoughts first, because that's where the real truth is about what we do and the things that affect us directly. I think that you not being able to go to the store should not only be something that you're upset about, but everybody in that neighborhood, whether they can drive to the store or not, they should be upset at the fact that you can't go to the store. That's community. That's community. And I'm saying when these young folks, one of the things that happened, everybody know about old-fashioned donuts up on Michigan. You know what happened to old-fashioned donuts? One window got broke and they was about to tear it up. But you know what happened? All of the cats from that hood, they said, hold on, pimp. You ain't doing that to this shop. Because they know what old-fashioned donuts meant to that shop, to that area, to that community. We've been going there since we was yay high. I remember old-fashioned donuts every Sunday morning as a kid. That's what that meant. So it was personal. It was something that was personal to the hood that said, hold on, young buck, you busted this window and we should get you, but we're going to let you slide because of what's happening, but ain't nothing else happening. And then that same community turned around and gave that man over $10,000 to not only cover the repair of his window, but to upgrade his shop, to fix other things that were wrong in that shop. That's community. But because it was personal to us, that's what made everything different about that one particular store, that one particular black business. So that is extremely important to always express what you feeling and what your anger is or what you upset about, because that's truly what people can identify with and connect with. So you should always be willing to do that.
The only reason I wouldn't, I'm saying that I would not express it is because I just, I don't want to, I'm not going to say that I don't understand where that came from. I don't think they personally did it so that I couldn't eat it. They did it without thought. The people
they didn't know. You're right.
Without any thought, because they probably, a lot of them may even live in the areas where they were doing this stuff not realizing I got to get, my money order or something from this place to go get my rent paid, or just things like that. We never really look at the whole thing. We just see the right now. And so I feel you. Like, I don't believe in necessarily holding it in, but I mean, like, in this arena or on Facebook, I wouldn't say that. I was more so like, man, let's go try and clean up something. Let's go try to clean up in those areas. That's what I would say. Because I feel like people saying they mad. We mad. My mom, my people that live over here, and the area I live in, there are a lot of disabled and elderly people and people who don't drive. And so everybody felt the effect of it. But sometimes when the change is going to happen or is bound to happen, it's going to be some discomfort to all parties. And I'm not saying this is required. I know y'all like, why she keep, but I want to make it clear that when this stops and somebody go back and watch it on YouTube, that they don't say, oh, she probably meant this or whatever. I'm not saying that it's okay or that it should have happened. I'm saying I understand. And also, we all know, look at the civil rights era and all of those things. They weren't necessarily writing, but they had to really pay a price in order for a change to come. And it's really sad that they took advantage of that situation and used it for what they did. But guess what it made the world do? You understand?
You're right, but here's what the problem is with that.
I don't disagree with you. That's just my opinion on it.
That's fine, but there's a problem with that, because when you look at what happened when King got shot, what did they do in Detroit? They tore it up. They burned it down to nothing. And it is just now, within the past maybe 5 to 10 years, and we talk about this happened in 68, it's just now getting back on its feet, but it's full of nothing but white folks now.
Right.
So there is no we win.
The area, it was the same way.
There is no we win. We don't win when we do that. That's the lesson that I want people to understand. So regardless of what happens,
it's a part of the.
No, we need to. No, that's the thing. We can stop that. We can change what we do as people and as individuals. We have control over that. So we keep repeating.
Okay. We're gonna have to do a part 2. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do a part 2 on this one. All right.
Because look, I got people that want to be added to this conversation, and I just have to vet all these people. So listen, next Tuesday evening.
Nobody.
Yes.
I did.
No. This is all in the master plan. No, this is you not. This is all in the master plan. So next Tuesday night will be the continuation of this show. But I also have other people. I have a couple of women that want to join with Monique on this. I've had a couple of guys that said they want to get in on this. So we're gonna make this a much bigger show next week. And so I'll be in touch with everybody. But this really was incredible tonight. And there was, to me, no winners, no losers. Everybody's points were valid tonight, very valid. And I want everybody to understand that for sure. Monique, since you are the female here, I'm going to let you give your closing thoughts, and then I'm going to go around and let all the gentlemen close out as well, too.
Okay. My closing is that until we all come to one conclusion, until we can all decide to love each other and love ourselves first and to love each other. That's the problem. We need unity. Arguing about it is not going to solve anything. Debating about it within our circles. Let's get past our differences and accept that we have this one thing in common. We are one, period. And until we realize that, when I look at this sister and when I look at this brother, I'm looking at myself, then we always going to have the problems that we have. And until we realize it's not about right or wrong, it's just about, doing something. I hope
Okay. All right.
Last
very
week,
good
for having me. I totally appreciate it. I really do. It was fun. And I thank everybody. That's all.
I love you, Monique. You did an outstanding job, because what I wanted more than anything, Not that the gentlemen are not, but I wanted a real person who understands what it's like out here in these trenches. And you helped me tremendously, my friend. So I thank you for that. And you now have some sister girls that want to join you in this conversation. I already had 10 women text me. I'm gonna have to vet who's gonna be the best one to join you in this, but I'm looking forward to part 2 of this conversation. Brother Brian, go right ahead with your closing thought and your ending comments.
I mean, I guess with us trying to have a common goal of how do we make things better, my biggest thing is that we have to take a different type of stand. One of the things that I talk about on my show all the time is that it's not about taking a stand, it's about the way you take a stand. When we look at what we have in our communities, when we look at the people that are in our communities, those things that we have, it's ours. And over the years, over history, ever since the dawn of time, one of the things that has always been fought over is land. It's that area. What is yours? That property, that area, that community. And people have died for generations, for centuries over that very thing. And if we're not willing and if we're not ready to take a stand to the point to where we are willing to die for it, we will get no respect. We will get no real change, and we will not change a thing in our communities and about us until we're willing to die for it. Every time you go out, and I'm not down in any of the pastors, I'm not down in any of the community activists or any of those people. It's all right to do those things, but you need to go out there and you need to be willing and able to fight fire with fire. Because when you go out there on that corner and you want to talk to these young boys, you want to stand up against these young boys, you better be willing to die for it. And you better be ready. Because these young boys, they not trying to give up their corners where they making tens of thousands of dollars to somebody just because they standing there saying, we love you and we want you to stop. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen that way. We have to be willing and we have to be ready to be down for whatever and do whatever it takes to take back what is ours that we truly want and we truly love. If you love your kids, you want these little babies to stop dying, you got to go out here and tell these young boys it ain't happening no more, and you better have a gun in your hand when you're doing it, because that's all they're going to respect.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I could not. I can't wait for the continuation of this here conversation. I'm gonna need a drink after this show is over tonight. Look, I'm gonna need a drink and a spliff after this show is over tonight. Baby, this done been a lot said on this here little television this evening. Bishop, please go right ahead with your closing thoughts and comments.
I agree with both Monique and our brother. The motto set before us through Martin, Malcolm, Bayard, and the like is just that, brother. They laid it all on the line. And I think that's the thing for me in our community, is that our community is being important enough, valuable enough for us to stand up and put it all on the line for it. That we come together with these dialogues, and these dialogues are great, but that then we're pushed back out into the culture, empowered and ready to take it back, to ensure that not another child loses their life, to ensure that not another grandmother is attacked by a brother who looks just like her, that we will stand in the gap, not just with nice prayers and soft hugs, but to really lay it out there to say, hell no, not on my watch. I'm not one of those pretty preachers. I'm a preacher who would align with Malcolm by any means necessary to ensure that not another life is lost. So that's my closing statement, that we value the community enough to take the community back.
Okay. Well, with that being said, boy, it's been a lot said tonight. Thank you to everybody. I'm not even, I got some work to do, so y'all just relax for a second. For those of you all that are just joining us, you've missed quite a show. For those of you all that have been here with us all evening, I really appreciate you. You're watching the Real Chat Daddy Show. Do me a favor, go over to YouTube, subscribe to the Real Chat Daddy Show page. The entire month of July is entitled Hotter Than July. And each night I plan on having some of the most interesting conversations ever to help wake us up as a people. You, your family, your community, your city, this country, and the world needs to know a lot of just wonderful information of how we live, who we are, and how we try to share a message of hope and peace among people. Our opinions are varied in many different ways. We all know that. But until we sit down and bring our varied opinions together and start the dialogue, nothing will ever change within our households and our communities. And I'm just really proud to have had the guests who I have here tonight. These people all read a post I did on Facebook 6 days ago when I said, how come we are not looting and rioting with the number of children being shot and killed in our city? And that's how tonight's conversation came about. Now, next week, we will continue part 2 of this conversation. I will add other voices, other faces to this, but this is something that we must continue to keep talking about, something that we keep bringing to the forefront each and every night. Coming up on the Wednesday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show, I'll introduce you to 2 book authors who have both wrote just wonderful books, and we'll hear testimonies on the importance of pivoting and changing your life in times like now, as well as we'll hear a young lady's testimony of how her life was spared and she ended up changing her life. So make sure you're here tomorrow night for just 2 incredible testimonies. Let me give some feedback of what we had tonight. Quite a few people said they do need a cocktail or a drink after this show tonight. People said that they love the opinions that were shared on this show tonight. Monique, I need to let you know, you had a lot of women in your corner tonight, a lot of women, and some of those women will be in this conversation. You did. Brother Rehab, you had some people that said you did take it there. You did. You went there, but then they also had to side eye a few things you've been saying. And I'm looking at comments on 4 different pages. Bishop, people was with you. They were there with you. A lot of people debated a couple of the things you said. But what I want to say is all of you all held your ground tonight. And that's what this is all about. There's no right. There's no wrong. This is about how do we bring people that all look the same. We all look the same, but yet we are so varied in how we think about life. And the thing is that we got to be like this because we grew up. We went to school. We've seen life experiences. But imagine how many people in our communities across the country who are in ghettos, who are in economically deprived situations, that they don't know that there's anything better than what they're living in. And so shame on us to have rose to such levels of success and not given back or not reach back and said, listen, this is a wrong way to live. Let's all try to live better. And I think that's what we're all here to be, ambassadors of great stewardship. I think that's why I chose you guys. And I'm looking forward to the other guests that will join in on this conversation as we move along. What is the one thing before we go? Because we're going to I forgot we were taking this to 9 o'clock. I'm thinking 8:30. Thank God my bladder is holding tonight. Y'all okay?
I'm good. I'm used to it.
Now I used to peed on myself by now, but thank God my bladder is holding tonight. This is a good conversation. Child, right. I tell people, look, 2 hours
Let's sit here down. Put it down.
Look, I'm gonna need some rough Napoleon by the time we get up. Oh, gone blind. That's my Rihanna, y'all. Monique is my Rihanna.
Yeah.
Monique, I do have a question. I'm gonna ask each one of you all. If you had an Aladdin's lamp, what would be the one wish you'd want for the Black community? If you had an Aladdin's lamp, what would be the one wish that you most would want for the Black community? Monique, you want me to come back to you, or are you ready to give that answer?
Come back to me because I'm too ghetto right now. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. We love you, boo.
You look good. You look good. Set it down.
Celebrity. I don't know nothing about this. So I'm sorry, but no, go to somebody.
That's all right, baby. You're doing a great job. Relationship Rehab, if you had that Aladdin's lamp, what would be the one wish for the Black community?
I would probably say traditional families. Fathers being in the home, having traditional families. I'm talking every day, wake up, daddy there, no co-parent, no halfway parent, no sometime parents. We good friends, but we parent. I'm talking straight up, my daddy home every day. My daddy's in the house every day with my mama. That traditional nuclear family would be my wish. I believe that is the cure to the problems of us as a people and us as a country. So not just Black folks, but white folk, Hispanic folk, and everybody else. If you look at the people who are thriving, the people who are really thriving in this world, that is the main common denominator, is having a family intact. There is a mama and a daddy, and they come from that. Now, it's not all perfect, but the greater majority in the percentages of successful families, successful races, successful groups, they have those things intact.
Okay. All right. Very good. Monique, are you ready now, dear? You want me to let the bishop go?
Let the bishop go, and then I'll go.
Of course. Let the bishop go. Yes, Bishop Damone. Sir, if you had an Aladdin's lamp, what would be your one wish for the Black community?
One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is, I come that you might have life and that more abundantly. And so my prayer and my hope through Aladdin's lamp is to see our community living that life of abundance. And that abundance is shared and flows in every direction in our community. That's my prayer.
I love it. I do. Monique, darling, it's on you, dear. If I gave you that Aladdin's lamp and gave you one wish for the Black community, what would it be, my love?
I would say healing, in the sense of mental, spiritual, especially mental. We have so many traumas that we pass down in tradition. We have so many traumas. And I think that if there was a healing of the spirit, the soul, the mind, then could come self-love. Then could come love for one another, and that willingness to do, as the brother said, die for the freedom, the justice, and equality of our, brothers and sisters. And so that's what I would wish for, is healing. I think we just have a lot of hurt passed down, a lot of hurt we accept and receive, a lot of hurt we give. And with that hurt being a major part, with healing could become, so much could come from it. Just about the tears come to my eyes just thinking about the hurt and trauma of our people over centuries and centuries and passed down. You know how they say we have a genetic, I can't think of what it's called, but it's almost like a trauma, a genetic memory of this trauma, to where you're reacting to things in a certain way simply because of how your ancestors had to deal with it, such as a cat being scared of a cucumber because of what their ancestors had to go through with alligators. They don't know why they're scared of that doggone cucumber, they just are. And it's the same with us. We don't know why we fear certain things. We don't know why we don't have the self-love that we have. That healing, that would be a miracle to the Black community, to me, in my opinion.
I agree with you on that. I think we are all very traumatized. I think that we are desensitized to feelings. I think that we just do things because and really don't think about it. We don't really give a damn about our fellow man. There's a lot of things that I think we need to work on. Compassion is something that I just feel people lack a lot of, and so it is what it is. And really, love will help to cure a lot of things. Love will help you to feel just different about who you are, why you exist, and even give you the reason to continue on. So I think everything that you guys have said tonight has just been absolutely incredible. For those of you all that are wanting to be a guest as a part of this conversation, I would love to have you all as a guest on the show. Please send me an email to booking, BOOKING, at therealchatdaddy.com. Again, that's booking, BOOKING, at therealchatdaddy.com. Here's the deal. Not only this conversation, but any other conversation that we need to have that will bring awakening to people, I want that conversation to be had. This is not just a Black people's conversation. This is an all people's conversation. The reason why this was more of a Black conversation this evening is we are Black, and we do want to see our people do better, live better, feel better, just in many different ways. So the entire month of July is how we're going to dedicate this to making sure everybody is full and everybody is getting what they need. Again, if you're interested in being a guest on any of these particular shows, it's getting ready to come up on the screen in just a little bit. Booking at therealchatdaddy.com. We need to be a part of this. We all need to do what's necessary so that we are all as one. And that's the way I look at it. Okay. All right. What else in closing? There it is. Book.
Go live. You know, I kind of do it here and there, but I'll definitely be going live tomorrow. Please go to my YouTube channel. Just go and either search in Google or go to YouTube and type in The Relationship Rehab, and I will pop up and you can see a lot of my wonderful content. Give me your thoughts and let me know what you guys think about it. I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate you, brother, for giving me the opportunity, man. It's always a pleasure. I love you so much.
Always a pleasure, brother. It really is. Bishop, how do we continue to keep following you and all that great stuff?
Yeah, I'm on IG, Facebook, Twitter, all of that, just at Damone Seraphin. There's a lot going on artistically, ministry-wise, so just look us up, and you'll be a part of that. Thanks.
Very good, Monique. Oh, pleasure. Monique, darling, anything else you want to add before we leave? You want people to, because you got a following now, Monique. Look, you that sister.
My name on Instagram is Chigoill, CHIGOILL. So like Chigoill, because you know we go ill in the Chi, and that's my last name, Monique Chigoill, on the Facebook. I don't really accept Facebook people though, so I don't even know why I said that, because I say too much to have people I don't know on there. But follow me on Instagram if you want, and that's pretty much it. I'm just glad that we got that all out. It went well, and I thank you guys for being such great. You know what I mean? Like you was awesome. I took care of me, and everybody was listening. It was really nice. I feel so Cardi B right now. Like the only thing I would change is probably I definitely would be a lot less, me, a lot less my personality, probably a little bit more. Just saying what I have to say. I know y'all like, didn't nobody ask you that. But anyway, I had fun, you guys. I can't wait till next Tuesday. I don't think I'm going to be.
But you know what the deal is? You a real woman living in a real situation in these real streets, and that's what we needed. That's why I'm adding more to this dynamic next week.
I think
absolutely.
We should, especially anybody that really is on the activist level, that really is out here, on the podium and speaking the voice. I would love for somebody like that to really get out here and say what it is that I may not have effectively said. I think I did well, but I do feel like, man, somebody else could have really broke this down for him. Because I at times I didn't feel like what I was saying was coming across the way I wanted it to. So I can't wait.
That's all right. They saying they love you. I'm looking at all the feeds. Don't worry, baby. You did what needed to be done, and that's what the variety of this is all about. All right. Well, on behalf of my pleasure.
Can Monique say her Instagram handle again?
It's
Monique, your Instagram handle.
CHIGOILL. Chigoill. So I'll just go make it public because I don't do anything on there that's private anyway. I'll go make it public. But yeah, that's how you can follow me on there. And and Moreo Designs on Facebook. That's where you can see my artwork. I just posted some pictures I sketched. I sketched a picture of my nice little prayer print right here, right? It motivated me. So anyway, yeah, you can check me out there.
All right. Well, on behalf of all of my guests this evening and my very special co-host, my good friend Bishop Damone Seraphin, imagine we met on an airplane when I was a flight attendant. That's how we met. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
I was 32,000 feet in the air talking about coffee, tea, or me. And he became my buddy forever. So you know, that's how that all works. And then the relationship rehab with my good friend, Mr. Brian Redmond, always a great time. Both of these gentlemen, former Chicagoans living across the country. And then Monique, you know how I feel about you, boo. That's why you were here tonight. I'm like, girl, you getting ready to be the queen of the show tonight. You getting ready to give that element that I needed tonight. You were exactly what I'm looking for. Here we go. Somebody just said, great show tonight. I appreciate that. That's what it's all about. That's right. Another excellent show. My pleasure, you guys. All right. So don't forget, if you do want to be a guest on one of the upcoming The Real Chat Daddy show, please go to the website and get yourself booked to be a guest in these discussions. They will continue on the entire month of July because it's my Hotter Than July series. All right. On behalf of everybody who's been here tonight, I love you guys so very much. Thank you again. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night to the Wednesday night edition of The Real Chat Daddy Show. For an encore performance of this show, you can always go to The Real Chat Daddy Show on Facebook or The Real Chat Daddy Show on YouTube. Good night, you guys. God bless and have a wonderful evening. And we are out of here. Here we go. Let me end the broadcast.